Somewhere, right now, a small percentage of people wake up in the middle of the night, lie there for an hour or two, feel completely calm, and then fall back asleep. Most of them assume something is wrong with them, but for almost all of human history, this wasn't rare. It wasn't a disorder. It was universal. And what people did during those hours might be one of the strangest, most important things humans have ever done. Right now, you probably sleep in one block. Lights off, 8 hours, lights on. That feels normal because it's all you've ever known. But that pattern is new. Historically speaking, almost shockingly new. For nearly all of human existence, people didn't sleep this way. They slept in two separate phases. A first stretch of sleep shortly after dark. Then, in the middle of the night, they woke up. Not by accident. Not because something was wrong. This waking period could last an hour, sometimes two. Then they went back to sleep until morning. For a long time, this idea sounded almost made up. Until a historian went looking for proof. He spent years searching old documents, letters, court records, medical texts. He found hundreds of references to this exact pattern, spanning centuries. People wrote about going to bed, sleeping for a while, waking up, and then, eventually, returning to a second sleep. The phrase showed up again and again in completely different time periods, written by people who had no way of influencing each other. This wasn't a regional habit. It was something close to a universal human default, but old documents are just descriptions. They don't prove biology. So in the early 1990s, a researcher decided to test it directly. He took a group of volunteers and put them somewhere with no artificial light at all. No lamps, no screens. Just darkness, for roughly 14 hours a night, the same darkness your ancestors would have experienced before fire and candlelight extended the evening. He expected their sleep to eventually settle into one long block, similar to how most people sleep today. That's not what happened. Within a few weeks, every single participant fell into the same two-part pattern. Several hours of sleep, then, on their own, with no instructions, they woke up. Not anxious, not frustrated, calm. Here's where it gets specific. While they were awake during that middle stretch, researchers checked their hormone levels. They found a surge of a particular hormone, one normally associated with deep relaxation, the same one linked to meditative states. In other words, this wasn't a broken stretch of insomnia. It was its own distinct mental state. Calm, quiet, almost meditative. A state that, today, almost nobody experiences anymore, because almost nobody's nights look like this anymore. So, what did people actually do during that window? Historical accounts describe something surprisingly ordinary. Some people just lay there, thinking, letting their mind wander without any task attached to it. Others got up briefly, tended a fire, checked on family. Some societies treated this period as an ideal time for quiet conversation, or even, according to old medical texts, for reflecting on dreams while they were still fresh. The point wasn't productivity. It was a kind of built-in nightly pause, a space the brain seemed to need, that modern life simply removed. So what changed? Light. As artificial lighting spread, first oil lamps, then gas, then electricity, nights stopped being dark by default. The boundary between awake time and asleep time blurred, and gradually the second sleep just disappeared. Not because humans evolved past needing it, because the environment that used to produce it naturally was switched off. Which brings us back to the people who still wake up at 2 a.m., calm, alert, with nothing obviously wrong. For most of human history, that wasn't a malfunction. It was the most normal thing in the world. Your ancestors didn't fight through that window. They didn't reach for a phone, or check the time anxiously, or assume something had gone wrong. They simply lay there, awake, unbothered, for a little while, before drifting, naturally, back into the second half of the night. You weren't designed to fear that quiet hour. You were designed to use it